You don't break your trading rules all at once. You break them slowly. At first, it's small, almost harmless. You look at your trade and think, I'll just move my stop this one time, and it feels justified. The market is about to turn. The setup still makes sense. You just need to give it a little more room. So you do it, and nothing bad happens immediately. In fact, sometimes it even works. And that's where it begins. At the beginning of your journey, you had rules, clear ones, strict ones. You told yourself, I will never risk more than this. I will never move my stop. I will only enter under these conditions. And for a while, you followed them. You felt disciplined, in control, like a real trader. But then the market did what it always does. It tested you. It wasn't a big moment. No dramatic mistake. No obvious failure. Just a small decision. A trade that almost worked, but didn't. And instead of accepting the loss, you hesitated. You thought, it's just a few more pips. So you moved your stop. Just a little. Not enough to feel like you broke your rules, but enough to change something. And then something dangerous happens. The trade comes back, it reverses, it goes into profit. And suddenly, your rule breaking feels justified. You tell yourself, see, I was right. I just needed to trust my analysis. But what you don't realize is this. You didn't win because you were right. You won because you got lucky. From that moment, something shifts. Your rules are no longer absolute. They become flexible. Not in a big way, just slightly. Just enough to allow exceptions. And those exceptions start to grow. Because now, every time you're in a losing trade, there's a voice in your head saying, it worked last time. You don't notice it at first, but your discipline is slowly eroding. Trade by trade. Decision by decision. You start entering earlier than you should. You hold trades longer than you planned. You move stops. Again. And each time you have a reason, a justification, something that makes it feel logical. But in reality, you're drifting further and further away from your system. And then your trading changes. Not your strategy, your mindset. You're no longer executing rules. You're negotiating with the market. You're hoping instead of planning, reacting instead of following structure. And every decision starts to feel heavier, more emotional, more uncertain. Because deep down, you know you're no longer consistent. Eventually, it catches up to you. A trade goes against you. You move your stop again. But this time, it doesn't come back. It keeps going and going and going until the loss becomes bigger than it ever should have been. And suddenly, you feel it. That moment where everything hits at once. You don't lose because of one trade, you lose because of a process. A series of small decisions that slowly destroyed your structure. It wasn't the market that broke you. It was the moment you allowed your rules to bend. Because once rules become optional, discipline disappears. This isn't because you're careless or because you don't understand trading. It's because you're human. Your brain is wired to avoid pain. And in trading, a loss feels like pain. So when you're faced with that loss, your mind looks for a way out, a way to delay it, a way to avoid it. And breaking your rules feels like relief. But that relief is temporary. Because every time you break a rule, you weaken your system. You make your results unpredictable. You lose the ability to measure what actually works. And without that, you can't improve. You're no longer trading a strategy. You're just reacting. Professional traders don't avoid losses. They accept them. Because they understand something most traders don't. A controlled loss is part of the system. But an uncontrolled one is a failure of discipline. They don't move stops to feel better. They don't adjust rules mid-trade. They trust their plan, even when it's uncomfortable. So how do you fix this? You don't start by changing your strategy. You start by rebuilding your rules. Clear, simple, non-negotiable, and more importantly, you commit to following them. Not when it's easy, but when it's hardest. Because that's the real test. Anyone can follow rules when they're winning, but real discipline is following them when you're losing. When everything in you wants to change something, when your mind is telling you to just adjust it, that's the moment that defines you. At some point, this stops being about strategy and starts being about identity. Are you the trader who follows rules or the trader who bends them? Because that choice shows up in every single trade you take. Every rule you follow strengthens your edge. Every rule you break weakens it. And over time, those small decisions compound into consistency or into chaos. And here's the part most traders never see. Breaking your rules doesn't just affect one trade. It changes how you think. Every time you ignore your system, you teach your brain that rules are optional. That discipline can be delayed. That structure can be adjusted. And over time, that becomes your default behavior. Not just in one trade, but in all of them. And once that happens, something even more important starts to break. Your trust in yourself. Because now, even when you try to follow your rules, there's doubt. You hesitate. You second guess. You wonder if you'll stick to it this time. And trading becomes heavier, not because of the market, but because you no longer trust your own decisions. So the goal isn't just to have rules, it's to become the kind of trader who actually follows them, consistently, without exception. Because that's where confidence comes from. Not from winning trades, but from knowing that no matter what happens, you'll do what you said you would do. So next time you're in a trade and you feel that urge to change something, pause. Don't act immediately. Ask yourself, am I following my system or am I trying to escape discomfort? Because that one question can protect you from the exact mistake that destroys most traders. And if you can master that moment, you won't just improve your trading, you'll completely change it. If this made you see your habits differently, subscribe, because everything on this channel is designed to help you build real discipline, not just better trades.